Welcome to Trading with Livevol. I'm not Stefan Choi. My name is John Bloor. I'm filling in for Stefan today. I'm going to walk you through kind of how I analyze the market, what's been going on so far, and if I'm going to do anything. Looking at the market so far, if you've checked it out, nothing is really happening. We've had the GDP numbers come out earlier this morning. GDP rose by 0.1%. The market's responded by really just sort of sitting put. And I think what we're really waiting on here is waiting on this FOMC meeting announcement, which is happening later today at 2 o'clock Eastern. Often before these numbers come out, we'll see sort of a lull in the market where people are just sort of waiting to respond unless something is leaked out or unless there's a large expectation. So I think we're pretty much going to sit still until some of these numbers or some of this news leaks out. The rest of the week, we do have a number of announcements, as you can see. Jobless claims tomorrow, and then the employment situation on Friday. Given all those things, I'd be hesitant to put on any new positions right now at the moment, and that's certainly the case for me right now, especially ahead of this FOMC meeting announcement. I like to sell out of the money puts, so I like to sell premium. And ahead of this announcement, with the market being in a lull, I'm not expecting to see any good prices. Now, after these numbers leak or after the numbers come out, if we get a drop, maybe that'd be a better selling situation. But right now, as it looks, I don't really see anything that interesting happening. Let's look at what I trade. I trade the Russell and I trade the SPX. So let's look at both of those. The Russell up right here, as you can see, it's pretty flat. I do have a number of positions on right now. The Russell, I have some May puts that I sold and some June puts. Those positions are doing quite well. So let's look at the skew chart. So the skew chart is going to be how we're going to know if we're getting a good price for our out-of-the-money puts that we're going to be selling. Well, at least the out-of-the-money puts that I like to sell. So we have, let's see, June. We have May, June, and July here. May is going to be too short of a time frame. There's only 15 days left. You do not want to sell far out of the money premium in May at 15 days based on the way that option prices decay. Selling out of the money with only 15 days left is not a wise decision. So we'd be looking at either June, which is 50 days, or July, which I think is 78, if my memory serves. So those would be our two choices for selling out of the money premium. We'd be looking to sell anywhere between anywhere between like 50 and 70 days. So July is a little bit out of that range, but just a tad. And if we got a good price, I'd still be willing to jump in. And June is right in that sweet spot. I sold June already on the big down day last week. But if we get another chance, I definitely add on to my position. Let's see. So neither of these look fantastic just from briefly looking at them. Let's dig in and see what the numbers tell us though. So let's go to June here. So the delta that I sold is sitting here at about 10. That's what we want to start with. We're going to compare the 10 delta IV to the at the money IV. That's going to give us a number, and based on that number, I'll be able to make an assessment on whether or not I'm getting a fair price or not. So right now we're sitting at 26.25 at the 10 delta, and we're sitting at let's see, we're kind of halfway in between. So we'll say 20. We'll call it 2010 on the at the monies. So let's do a little math. Pull out the calculator. 26, 25. So multiply this by 100 and we get 130. 130% is the difference there. That is not a fantastic number. That is a little bit on the low end. That's not a number I'd want to be selling. This is going to sit anywhere between like 130 and 140 regularly. If we get a good price, it's probably going to be about 145% is a fairly good price for selling a 10 delta put on the Russell. So nothing fantastic looking there. Good thing for me. I already have my position on. I sold it when the skew was a little bit better. Let's see about the Julys though. All right, 10 delta on the July, 26.57. And let's divide that by the at the money number. So we'll go 1990 on that. $133. Again, not fantastic. That's sitting well within a normal range. Nothing I'd want to sell. So let's look at the chart on the Russell really quick. As you can see, the Russell has been on an absolute tear for about the last year and a half, but more recently we've sort of fallen out of that trend in early February, only to resume it at the end of the month and then come right back down. And now we've been trending lower, at least in the short term. But I've continued my put selling strategy, mostly because, as you can see, we have pretty decent support here at the 1100 mark. We haven't really fallen below that. If we do, as you can see, the next area of significance would be somewhere around here, around 1080, and then you know, maybe 1060-ish after that. Let's see. I am short the 990s in June, and I'm short the the 1010s in May. So 990s and 1010. So as you can see, I'm significantly out of the money. I do have hedges placed in against those bets, so I'm not just selling those straight. So I'm pretty far out of the money, as you can see, so I have quite a bit of time to react and quite a bit of support levels to protect me in the case of a downturn. Let's look at the RVX, which is the volatility on the Russell. See if that tells us anything interesting. So as you can see, the RVX, at least for the last, since last May, we're looking at the higher end. 2172. If just based on the RVX, if you just told me the RVX was at 2172, that would be a level I'd be interested in selling potentially. I've definitely noticed anytime I sell above the 20 level on the RVX, I'm in trades a lot shorter period than when I sell below 20. So this would be a level I'd be looking to sell, but again, we did look directly at those 10 delta puts, and neither of them were very interesting. So slightly higher range, nothing exceptional. Let's look at the SPX. As you can see, SPX hovering fairly close to the highs here. Nothing that interesting going on in the SPX right now either, especially with the market in this sort of lull period. Look at the VIX. The VIX is definitely maybe in the middle range. You could even argue it's in the lower range. So not that interesting to sell. Maybe a calendar in the SPX would be somewhat interesting, but given all the announcements, I wouldn't want to do anything at the money. At least that's my personal trading style. Let's look at the SPX though here. See if there's anything worth doing. All right, so again, May is going to be too short, so we're going to be looking either in June or July. So let's look at these Junes. Let's find 10 delta. All right, 10 delta IB 1763. Well, our calculator, do a little math here. 1763. Let's see, the at the money is going to be 1182. $149. That's definitely interesting. 149 on the Junes. That is definitely a number I'd be willing to potentially sell. The SPX is going to sit between 135 and 145 typically. Anything 145 or above would be interesting to sell. So let's look at the skew chart here. Get rid of all these. June and July are the two we're looking at. June is what I just pulled up, and as you can see, it's definitely steeper than July. So yeah, that's not looking bad. What was that 10 delta? $17.30s. So yeah, this is looking slightly interesting. Let's compare that and just look at July just to see what the difference is. Let's find the 10 delta here. All right, 10 delta is 1883. At the money is sitting at 1236. $152. Both those numbers are definitely numbers I'd be interested in selling. If we weren't having the FOMC announcements and the employment situation on Friday, I would probably be looking at some trade setups here in the SPX. But again, given the announcements that are coming up the rest of the week, and especially today, I wouldn't be looking to sell ahead of those numbers because we can get a drop down in the SPX today, depending on those numbers. And if we do, that could give you a much better selling situation. And if you got to drop down, you would regret the day that you were selling in the morning, only to have a big drop in the afternoon. That's not a good day. So given that, I probably wouldn't do anything right here, at least not right now. Let's look at the shorter term on the SPX, see what it looks like. So let's see, the numbers that we were looking at, the 10 deltas for June. Let's see what those 10 deltas were. 1725. So we'd be looking to sell something down around here. As you can see, we have some good support, somewhere around here in 1840. Again, at 18, maybe 1800 or so. 1780, 1740. Wow, so definitely a lot of support on the SPX. Very interesting, very interesting. This might be something that I look at later in the week, and especially early into next week um, in terms of selling. But again, given these announcements the rest of the day, me personally, I wouldn't be doing anything right here, right now. I tend to be a little bit more risk averse. I like trading winners. I don't like trading losers, so I tend to skew towards high probability trades that win much more than they lose. So I wouldn't trade anything, but this is certainly interesting. The vol numbers and the skew are interesting. The chart looks interesting for SPX. I will certainly look at SPX later in the week and on into next week, but as of right now, I wouldn't do anything before these numbers. That could change later in the day, and I'll certainly do a blog post or an update if something changes the rest of the day, but right now, I'm holding tight. Stefan will be back tomorrow, and thanks for joining us.